Chapter 20 The Princesses and the Pea. He's awake, said Scraps. Alex, it's good to have you back, Jack said. Alex blinked his eyes and stirred. He was lying on a bed of jerseys in a dugout. Puffy white clouds floated across the top of the outfield bleachers, and the flags whipped in the wind. He was inside the Fee-Fi-Fo Forum, the stadium at the top of the beanstalk. But when had he been brought here? Alex figured he must have been out all night. He tried to sit up, but his head swam like he'd been hit by a pitch. Just rest, Dorothy told him. You took a pretty nasty shot from the wolf. I told you, old boy, it's better to just die and get it over with. It's not so painful. Toad, not now, Dorothy told him. Alex closed his eyes. He wished he was dead. Not when he was fighting the big bad wolf, but before that, when he had gone to the wild woods and pulled his sorrow over him like a blanket. The knowledge that he wasn't real, that he never had been and never would be, that knowledge hurt, and he wanted the pain to end, but the woods were worse. Do I need to get some strips of fabric to tie him up? Scraps asked quietly. No, Alex told them. I'm not going back there. Really, I promise. He looked at Toad. I mean it this time. I'm sorry. Quite all right, old bean, Toad told him. We all get the urge to run off sometimes. Can we have a minute? Dorothy asked, and the others left her alone with Alex. She sat down on the bench beside him. You saved us back there, in the forest. We came to save you, and you ended up saving us. I was just scared, more scared of the wolf than I was of dying. Well, still, thanks. So, how long until the wolf comes after me again? Depends, Dorothy told him. If he died in the fire, he would have popped back healthy and ready to go. If you just charred him, it would take him a while to heal. Oh, how is Nanny May? Is she all right? Recovering nicely. She already bandaged herself up. Royal Army Nursing Corps and all that, you know. Alex scratched at his arm. Dorothy, I'm dying. He's giving up. The real Alex. He doesn't care anymore. I know, Dorothy told him. Alex sat up, even though it hurt. I'm so stupid. The lark who thought he was real. I'll bet everybody got a pretty good laugh out of that one. Nobody was laughing at you, Alex. He hung his head. Look, Dorothy told him. I understand if you want to give up. You can sit there on the bench the rest of the time, and I'll move people around. You're already short-handed, remember? Nanny May's hurt and Tick-Tock's broken. The memory of that horrible scene in the dark woods came back to him, and he shuddered. Tick-Tock's already fixed. He's good as new. And Nanny May, as team nurse, has cleared herself to play. Although I'm not sure we should be trusting the judgment of somebody who got hit in the head. The nanny sat knitting further down the bench. Mrs. P lay in her lap, catnapping, but Alex knew they were both still keeping an eye on him. He nodded his thanks. Look, Dorothy said, the point is I won't make you play. Heh, make me play. You don't think I could? You're talking to the girl who took down the Wicked Witch of the West. Alex gave herself half a smile, which was as much as he could muster. Scraps told me she's not so wicked after all. Well, she was then, Dorothy looked sidelong at him. Of course, you could always help us win and use your wish to not be forgotten like the rest of us. Nobody else is going to use their wishes to be remembered, Dorothy. You've heard them. Then I'll wish it for them. I'll wish for all of us to be remembered, even you. Alex shook his head. I thought about it, but it won't work. The real me is dying. When he dies, so do I. And if whatever was making him sick didn't get him, the big bad wolf eventually would. Well, it's your call, Dorothy said. I'm not going to push you anymore. Just don't go running off on us, all right? She smiled. We finally got used to having you around. Dorothy left Alex alone at the end of the bench and gathered the team together for a pep talk. This was their last game before the finals. If they won, they would play the winner of the Reapers/Lost Boys game. But first, they had to get through the Royals. Although the team they faced actually included Cinderella, to call them a Cinderella team would be a lie. Unlike the Cinderella of her story, this team was heavily favored to win and had proven Ever After's odds makers right in every one of their previous games. The Royals treated victory as though it was their due, but their success had more to do with the amazing gifts their authors had given them than any hard work or determination. Bunch of stuck-up princesses, Brer Rabbit said. They was born on third and act like they hit a triple. Alex, you with us? Dorothy asked as the Cyclones took the field. Yeah, he told her. But though Alex was with them in body, he wasn't with them in spirit. His pitches weren't as sharp as they'd been against Pinocchio's puppets. And when the Royals jumped out to an early lead, Dorothy quietly swapped places with him on the mound. Back at first base, Alex was all right with anything hit or thrown right at him, but in the second inning, he missed a low toss from Jack. He might have saved before. It skipped into the stands, and the runner was awarded an extra base. Even worse, Dorothy didn't get mad. She went easy on him, just like she had with Button Bright. Alex wasn't much better at plate either. He did his best to stand in and take good savings, but he was late every time. His heart just wasn't in it. His itch was getting worse, too. He missed a clean throw from Toad in the fourth because he was busy scratching, and after that, Dorothy called timeout and brought Scraps and Nanny May in from the outfield. Scraps, take Alex's place at first. Nanny May, I know you're always right, but would you play left today? I think this one time I can be wrong, the nanny said. All right, Dorothy said. Alex, take right field. Alex knew what that meant. Right field was where you put the players who couldn't be trusted anywhere else. It was the one place he could do the least amount of damage. He had gone from all-star to scrub, but that was where he belonged. With Alex slumping and Scraps and Nanny May playing out of position, the Royals might have romped, but the score was kept close thanks to a trio of bad umpires, 3 little white mice with sunglasses and canes who made absolutely terrible calls. The Cyclones could never pull even, though, let alone ahead. It might have helped if Dorothy could touch home plate, but with Alex hitting behind her, there were few enough chances for her to score as it was. I say, old man, watch this, Toad whispered to Alex as they sat on the bench in the bottom of the 7th inning. Brer Rabbit had lain down for a quick snooze between innings, and Toad crawled under the bench to stick a lit match between the rabbit's toes. The match curled its way up to Brer Rabbit's foot, and when the flames touched him, he yowled and shot into the air like a cartoon. Toad, Jack, Scraps, Pinkerton, even Dorothy busted out laughing, but Alex just went back to staring at the floor of the dugout and scratching at his itch. The Royals scored again in their half of the 9th inning, and the Cyclones came to bat, trailing by 4 runs with only 3 outs to go. The storybooks and larks in the stands began to file out of the stadium, eager to catch the ferry home. But everyone who left early missed an amazing sequence of events. Nanny May looped a liner to left to start the inning, and Scraps dragged a ball through the infield to put the Cyclones on first and second. Jack Pumpkinhead tapped a sacrifice burnt back to the pitcher that moved the runners to second and third, and then the home plate umpire did his part, calling what should have been a third strike as ball 4 and putting Tic-Tac on the to load the bases. What are you, blind? Screamed Briar Rose from the pitcher's mound. Yes, actually, said the little mouse. The princesses threw a royal fit, but the decision stood, and Pinkerton came to the plate with the bases loaded and only 1 out. The flying monkey smacked a double to right, scoring Scraps and Nanny, and Toad stood in with 2 on, 1 out, and the Cyclones now down by 2. Come on, Toad, Dorothy called from the dugout. I shall hit like I've never hit before, Toad said, giving his bat a hefty practice swing. You never have hit before, said Brer Rabbit. But Toad surprised everyone in the stadium, the Cyclones included, when he signaled sharply to center, scoring Tic-Tac and the fleet-winged Pinkerton to tie up the game. The crowd roared, and those who were not too far gone from their seats came back to cheer for the underdog. Dorothy was up next. With one good swing of the bat, she could put the Cyclones ahead without ever having to touch home plate herself. Briar Rose still had barbs to throw, but Dorothy fought off a third strike with foul ball after foul ball. After the storybooks and larks in the stadium, all of the storybooks and larks in the stadium, save Alex, were on the edge of their seats. The pitcher finally came after Dorothy with a pitch she could hit, and Dorothy sent it rocketing towards the outfield wall. The crowds rose to its feet and gasped, then sighed as one when Rapunzel climbed the center field wall and snared it for out 2. Toad was already halfway to third and had to scramble back to first. The throw bounced in and looked to have him beat, but the blind umpire at first called him safe, unleashing another tantrum from the princesses. They relented, though, when they saw which Cyclone was up next. Alex, who had struck out every single time at bat. Even a blind umpire couldn't walk Alex. Dorothy stopped him on the way to the plate. Alex, we actually have a chance here, but we need you. I know you don't care about yourself anymore, but there are other people to think about. A big bad wolf to beat. I'm just saying, please. I'll try, Alex told her. And he meant it, even if he didn't feel like it. He didn't want to go back to the wild woods again, but he didn't want to be here either. More than anything, he was wanting just to curl up someplace and be alone. How was he supposed to care about balls and strikes when he was dying? The first pitch hummed past Alex for strike one before he could even get his bat moving. In the Cyclones' dugout, Dorothy buried her head in her hands. Alex tried to shake off his doldrums. Tick-Tock, Scraps, Jack, Pumpkinhead, Brer Rabbit, Nanny May, even Dorothy, when they were all dying too, in a way, and they needed his help. But would winning the tournament really help? Was the wizard powerful enough to actually work his magic on the real world, even though he was make-believe like the rest of them? Dorothy certainly thought so. Alex had too, back when he thought he was real and wanted to go home. But what good was a wish from the wizard now? Even if the wizard could force the real Alex to believe in him, the real Alex was dying, and the dream Alex was dying with him. Unless... Briar Rose's second pitch zoomed past him for strike two. Alex suddenly stood straighter. Had he been a cartoon character, the other players might have seen a light bulb click on over his head. He'd been so stupid. All this time he'd been moping around about himself, but Dorothy was right. There were other people to think about. Whether a wish from a wizard could truly help or not, he didn't know, but it was worth trying for. It was worth playing for. The third pitch came whizzing in, and the old Alex was back. His bat flashed, crack, and the ball leaped into the air. The Royals gasped. The crowd rose to its feet, and in the Cyclones' dugout, Dorothy left the bench and came to the dugout rail to watch, tears welling in her eyes, as the baseball disappeared over the wall and left center and into the clouds for a game-winning home run.